When Darwin and Wallace proposed the theory of evolution, there was some controversy. Some of it was due to religious reasons, and some of it had to do with scientists simply having trouble letting go of their old ideas that were since overturned by evolution. Look, it's normal to want to hold on to an idea, but if evidence presents itself to disprove it, that idea is just wrong. It can be hard to accept that, especially if your ideas are part of your life's work, your belief system, or even your own identity. I guess you could say, like life, your knowledge must
Evolve.
or it will go extinct. Anyway, within 20 years of the publication of The Origin of Species, the vast majority of the scientific community accepted evolution as the explanation for how the diversity of life on Earth came to be and continues to change. However, there are still swaths of the population that just get things wrong about evolution. A 2019 Gallup poll in the United States shows that around 55% of Americans agree that evolution explains that humans evolved over millions of years. Before beginning on the misconceptions of evolution, I think it's important to say that I accept evolution. Saying that I believe in evolution makes no sense. You don't believe that water boils at 100 degrees Celsius at sea level, it just does. Belief is reserved for things without evidence. But evolution has so much evidence that you either accept it as true or you don't. And if you don't, nothing I can tell you will convince you otherwise. But even if someone is fine with a theory from a personal perspective, there are still some things they get wrong about it. So let's just take a look at these misconceptions. First, people will dismiss evolution as just a theory. And while true, it is a theory, the tone of this phrase depicts evolution as just an idea, hypothesis, or in some people's eyes, a scientific wild guess, aka swag. And when the word theory is used like this, it is a mischaracterization. Theory in science refers to a series of explanations that have been extensively tested and supported over a period of time. There's actually a lot of theories in science: gravity, atomic theory, germ theory, and even cell theory. Notice that hardly anyone ever purports that these ideas are just theories. Remember that theories can be wrong, but they require better evidence, and oftentimes theories are just tweaked, as just like in all science, theories build on prior knowledge. And this is why I love and trust the work of science. It always stands the test of scrutiny against some of the most skeptical people, and if an idea is wrong, science simply self-corrects. Another misconception of evolution is that individuals can evolve and are trying to adapt to a given environment. Evolution doesn't work that way. First, you are stuck with the genes you received at conception, and since your body replicates its cells by mitosis, which is asexual in essence, cloning, no new genes are introduced in your body. Also, organisms must already have the appropriate traits for a given environment. They don't just wish them into existence. Just because I want to swim and be one with the fish does not mean I'm going to grow flippers and gills. If individuals do not have those traits, they will have a reduced number of offspring or be killed off due to natural selection. It's also important to know that evolution does not have an end goal. Organisms don't evolve on purpose or become better over time. Simply put, the organism with the best traits in a given environment at that time will fare better. See the pattern now? And since the environment is constantly changing, there is no fixed best trait that exists. In addition, don't forget that modern organisms have vestigial structures, which provide no real benefit. I did not win my wife over using these amazing flaps.
I love you.
Another misconception of evolution is that it's random. And that's just not true. Even kids can point out that certain genetic features would fare poorly in certain environments. It's pretty obvious that this organism could not survive here. Mutations are random since they are genetic mistakes that were not corrected by DNA polymerase. But whether that mutation is beneficial, neutral, or harmful depends on the environment in which the mutation is proposed. For example, an egg containing squirrel DNA that produces a squirrel with lighter colored fur is all due to randomization. But you can easily predict that being lighter colored in a forested environment is a harmful mutation, likely leading to that squirrel's demise. However, if that same squirrel species resided in a snowier habitat and was born with lighter fur, that mutation would likely be beneficial. You may have heard that evolution is controversial among scientists. It's not. Look, I live in a state where it has the Creation Museum, and that museum has biologists with PhDs on staff. So, to the general public, it might seem as though evolution is one of many ideas that help explain the biodiversity of this planet. In fact, the theory of evolution was universally accepted within 20 years after its proposal in 1859. Why? Darwin displayed an impressive body of evidence. So, if evolution is seen as controversial, it's not because of scientists, but of those with differing religious and philosophical beliefs. Basically, if your religious or philosophical viewpoint depends on a literal interpretation, evolution might conflict with you. But know this, many major denominations in the United States have statements supporting the acceptance of evolution and that it's even compatible with their theology. If you remember from an earlier video about the nature of science, it must be measurable and falsifiable and objective. You also need to have repetitive studies that give you similar results. Evolution meets all of these standards. Religious explanations such as special creation do not. Special creation is the idea that a creator made all life on earth. And look, I'm not arguing whether your ideas are right or wrong, but those ideas are just not science. They require an immeasurable, unfalsifiable explanation whose interpretations are varied depending on the believer. The beauty of scientific explanations is the requirement of evidence and the constant scrutiny of scientists to ensure that the data reviewed is actually correct. Otherwise, that data is just simply disregarded. Oftentimes, parents, religious leaders, and other members of a community will ask science classrooms to teach evolution alongside alternative views that coincide with faith, such as special creation. There are several problems with teaching special creation or even acknowledging it as a science. First, special creation is not a science, as you cannot prove or disprove or measure a creator using objective standards of measurement. Secondly, whose idea of special creation is correct? Judeo-Christian? Hindu, traditional African faiths? Regardless, none of these can provide a measurable, falsifiable, and objective answer that can be tested by experimentation and observation. And at this point, the science class has morphed itself into a comparative religion class. The other issue with teaching special creation as a science, especially in U.S. public schools and colleges and universities, is that the First Amendment of the United States Constitution forbids governments from sponsoring any religion. On a final note, science is just simply indifferent about the existence or non-existence of a creator. Science can only study the physical and material world. Scientists themselves may reconcile their own personal beliefs with the science, as many do. Some may purport to be atheists in their worldview, and others may be deeply religious. Regardless, these scientists study the material world as they know that no field in science will ever prove or disprove their beliefs. Okay, so maybe that last part was a bit awkward, but at least in the United States, evolution is still rejected by around 35 to 40% of Americans. But now that we know how evolution works, what is the result of it? Biodiversity. So in our next video, we will look at how biologists organize life into groups based on their evolutionary relationships.